My name is Emma Charlie. I'm 32 years old, and I'm standing in the corner of my parents' living room, watching my younger sister blow out candles on a 3-tier cake. It's March 15th. My birthday was yesterday. Nobody remembered. Not a single text. Not a call. Nothing. But today, the house is filled with balloons, laughter, and relatives I haven't seen in months. My mother is taking photos with her new camera, the one I helped her pick out online. My father is pouring champagne into crystal glasses, the expensive kind they save for special occasions. My sister is glowing in a designer dress, midnight blue with delicate beading that catches the light every time she moves. The dress probably cost more than my monthly car payment. I'm holding an empty glass. I don't remember picking it up. I don't remember walking to this corner either. But here I am, tucked between the bookshelf and the wall, watching my family celebrate. The cake is massive, 3 layers of vanilla with buttercream roses cascading down the sides. My mother ordered it from that bakery downtown, the one that requires 2 weeks' notice. She planned this. They all planned this. Then my Aunt Margaret walks past me toward the gift table, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. She stops. She turns. She looks at me like she's just noticed a piece of furniture she forgot was there. "Oh, Emma, you're here. I almost didn't see you. You always blend into the background, don't you?" She says it loud enough for everyone to hear. Her voice cuts through the music, through the laughter, through everything. The room goes quiet for exactly 3 seconds. I count them. 1, 2, 3. Then the laughter starts again, louder than before, like her words were just another joke, just another moment of family banter. My mother glances at me. Our eyes meet for half a second, then she looks away, back to the camera, back to my sister. Nobody says anything. Nobody defends me. Nobody tells Margaret that what she said was cruel. I stand there, frozen, my hands trembling around the empty glass. The ice has melted. There was never anything in it to begin with. I feel my throat tighten, that familiar burning sensation that comes before tears, but I don't cry. I stopped crying at family gatherings years ago. I just stare at the cake, at my sister's perfect smile, at the way everyone orbits around her like she's the sun, and they're desperate for warmth. And I realize something cold and sharp, something that settles in my chest like a stone. I've been invisible my entire life, and they've been okay with it. My sister catches my eye across the room. She smiles at me, sweet and genuine, and mouths the words "thank you for coming," like I'm a guest, like this is her house, her party, her family, and maybe it is, maybe it always has been. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, drop a comment below. You're not alone, and trust me, this story is just beginning. I didn't say a word that night. I stayed for exactly 1 hour, long enough that leaving early would be noticed, short enough that staying longer would break something inside me. I hugged my sister. I kissed my mother's cheek. I shook my father's hand. And I drove home in silence, my hands steady on the wheel, my mind perfectly clear. When I got home, I went straight to my bedroom closet. I pulled out the box I keep on the top shelf, the one filled with old journals, photo albums, cards, and letters. I opened my laptop. I made tea, and I started keeping a list. I went home that night, and couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every birthday I could remember, every forgotten moment, every time I was pushed to the side, while my sister took center stage. The memories came in flashes, sharp and clear, like someone was flipping through photographs in my mind. When I turned 16, my parents took my sister to Disneyland the same weekend. I asked if I could come. My father said, "Emma, you're too old for that stuff. Besides, Lily's been wanting to go for months." She was 12. I spent my 16th birthday babysitting my cousin's kids for $20, while my family rode roller coasters and ate churros, 200 miles away. They brought me back a pair of Mickey Mouse ears. They were child-sized. They didn't fit. When I turned 21, they threw my sister a surprise party for getting accepted into college. Not just any party. They rented out a restaurant, invited 50 people, hired a photographer. I got a card in the mail, 2 weeks after my actual birthday. Inside, my mother had written, "Sorry this is late. Things have been so busy. Love you." There was a $20 bill folded inside, the same amount I made babysitting 5 years earlier. When I turned 28, they renovated my sister's entire apartment as a birthday gift. New floors, new kitchen, new bathroom, same 3 months planning it, coordinating with contractors, picking out tile and paint colors. I was paying off my student loans alone, working overtime, skipping meals to make rent. I called my mother that year, on my actual birthday, just to hear her voice. She answered and said, "Oh honey, can I call you back? We're at the hardware store with Lily." She never called back. I pulled out my old journals and started reading. I've kept journals since I was 14, spiral notebooks filled with terrible handwriting and honest feelings. I read page after page of forgotten moments, graduations where they arrived late because Lily had a recital, promotions they didn't celebrate because Lily had gotten into her first choice sorority, hospital visits they skipped when I had my appendix removed because Lily needed help moving into her new apartment. Every entry read like a catalog of neglect, a timeline of erasure. I sat there at 3 in the morning, staring at my phone, scrolling through family photos on social media. My mother's Facebook page was a shrine to my sister. Hundreds of pictures, Lily at the beach, Lily at graduation, Lily at brunch, Lily in her new car. Lily, 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 Lily. I scrolled for 20 minutes before I found a picture of me. It was from Christmas 2 years ago. I was in the background, blurry, holding a plate of cookies. The caption read, "Family time with our beautiful Lily." I kept scrolling. I found maybe 10 pictures of me total, all blurry, all in the background, all cropped at the edges, like I was an afterthought someone considered removing. I felt something break inside me, not sadness, not anger, something colder, clarity. For 32 years I'd told myself stories. They're just busy, they don't mean it, they love you, they just show it differently. But sitting there in the dark, looking at the evidence, I realized the truth they didn't forget. They chose. Every single time, they chose her over me, and I'd let them. I closed the photo album. I closed the journals. I opened my laptop and started a new document. I titled it The Inheritance. And I started writing down everything I knew about my parents' finances, their assets, their plans. I didn't know what I was going to do with the information yet, but something told me I'd need it. My sister Lily was 28, 4 years younger than me. She had never worked a full-time job in her life. She'd had internships, sure, and part-time gigs at boutiques, coffee shops, art galleries, but nothing permanent, nothing with benefits, or retirement plans, or real responsibility. My parents paid her rent, her car payments, her credit cards. She called it family support. I called it what it was, favoritism. Growing up, I was the responsible one. Straight A's from elementary school through college, scholarships, dean's list. I worked 2 jobs through college, one at the campus library, and one waitressing at a diner off campus. I saved every penny. I bought my first car with my own money, a used Honda with a dented bumper and windows that didn't roll down all the way. I was proud of that car. I paid for it myself. Lily got a brand new SUV for her 18th birthday. White, leather seats, sunroof. They gave it to her in the driveway with a bow on top, like something out of a commercial. She cried. They cried. I stood on the porch and clapped. I paid for my own wedding. My ex-husband and I saved for 2 years, budgeting every detail, cutting corners wherever we could. We had a small ceremony at a park, 40 guests. A friend's husband DJ'd for free. It was beautiful, simple, ours. My parents gave us $500 as a wedding gift. Lily got $50,000 for hers. $50,000. My mother said it was because Lily's wedding was bigger, more people, more expenses. But Lily's wedding was bigger because they paid for it to be bigger. And every time I asked why, every time I gently, carefully brought up the imbalance, my mother said the same thing. Lily needs more help. You've always been independent, Emma. You've never needed us the way she does. Independent. That was the word they used to justify neglect. Like being capable meant I didn't deserve love. Like being strong meant I didn't need support. I stopped asking after a while. I stopped expecting fairness. I just accepted that this was how things were. But last Christmas, I was at my parents' house helping my father organize his office. He'd asked me to help him file paperwork, old bills and tax documents he'd been putting off for months. I found a folder labeled estate planning. I shouldn't have opened it. I knew that, but I did. Inside were copies of their will, trust documents, life insurance policies, property deeds. I read through everything slowly, carefully, my hands shaking. Lily was listed as the primary beneficiary on everything: the house, the business, the savings accounts, the investment portfolios, everything. My name appeared once, at the bottom of page 7, as a backup, in case Lily predeceased them. I sat there on the floor of my father's office, surrounded by dusty boxes and old tax returns, and I felt something crack inside me. Not anger, not sadness, something worse. Acceptance. They'd planned a future that didn't include me. They'd built a legacy for her, not us. And they'd done it quietly, carefully, without ever telling me. I took photos of every document with my phone. I don't know why. Instinct, maybe, or anger, or some small quiet voice inside me that whispered, "You're going to need this." When my father came back into the office, I was filing the papers like nothing had happened. He smiled at me. "Thanks for helping, honey. You're always so responsible." I smiled back. "Of course, Dad. Anytime." And I didn't feel guilty at all. I made an appointment with a family lawyer named Richard Brennan. I didn't tell anyone. Not my parents, not my friends, not even my ex-husband, who I still talk to occasionally. I found Richard through an online search, read his reviews, checked his credentials. He specialized in estate planning and elder law. His office was downtown, on the 12th floor of a glass building that smelled like leather and expensive coffee. I walked into his office on a Tuesday morning with a folder full of printed bank statements, property deeds, and copies of my parents' will. I'd stayed up until 2 in the morning, organizing everything, highlighting the important parts, making notes in the margins. I sat down across from him at a heavy mahogany desk and said, "I need to know if this is legal." Richard Brennan was in his mid-50s, gray hair, wire-rimmed glasses, the kind of man who looked like he'd seen everything, and wasn't impressed by any of it. He took the folder from me without a word, and started reading. He read slowly, methodically, turning each page with careful precision. His expression didn't change, but I saw his jaw tighten. I watched him read for 15 minutes. The only sound in the room was the ticking of a clock on the wall, and the rustle of paper. Finally he looked up at me. "Legally, yes. Morally, that's another question." I leaned forward. "Explain." He folded his hands on the desk. "Your parents have every right to distribute their assets however they want. They can leave everything to one child, and nothing to the other. It's their money, their property, their choice. The law doesn't require fairness, it requires clarity." He paused. "But there's a caveat, which is, if you can prove financial elder abuse, coercion, or undue influence, you might have a case." I felt my pulse quicken. "What does that mean?" "It means if your sister manipulated your parents into changing their will, or if she's been controlling their finances without their full understanding, that's fraud. If she's been isolating them, pressuring them, convincing them that cutting you out is in their best interest, that's undue influence. If she's been taking their money without permission, that's elder abuse." I thought about all the times Lily had helped my parents with paperwork, all the times she'd taken them to the bank, to the lawyer's office, to financial meetings, all the times she'd been alone with them when decisions were made. I thought about the money she spent, the lifestyle she lived, the trips and clothes and dinners she posted about online while my parents quietly drained their savings. "How do I prove it?" I asked. Richard leaned back in his chair. "You investigate. You document, you gather evidence, bank records, emails, text messages, witness statements. You build a case, and if the evidence is strong enough, we take it to court." He studied my face for a long moment. Then he leaned forward and asked the question I'd been asking myself since I found those documents. "Do you want to fight this?" I looked him in the eye. "I want justice." He nodded once, like he'd been expecting that answer. He pulled a contract from his desk drawer and slid it across to me. "This is my retainer agreement. It outlines my fees, the scope of work, the process. Read it carefully. If you sign it, we move forward. If you don't, you walk away, and nothing changes." I picked up the contract. I read every word, every clause, every condition, every fee. It was expensive. It was going to take months, maybe years. It was going to hurt. But I thought about 32 years of being invisible, 32 years of being forgotten, 32 years of watching my sister take everything while I got nothing. I signed it without hesitation. Richard shook my hand. "Welcome to the fight, Emma." Richard assigned a private investigator named Sarah Cole to my case. She was sharp, quiet, and expensive, but I didn't care. I used my savings, the money I'd been setting aside for a down payment on a house, for a vacation, for someday. I wired her the retainer, and met her at a coffee shop near my office. Sarah was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with short dark hair, and eyes that didn't miss anything. She ordered black coffee. I ordered tea. We sat in the back corner, away from the windows. "Tell me everything," she said. I did. I told her about the birthdays, the favoritism, the money. I told her about the will, the inheritance, the documents I'd found. I told her about Lily's lifestyle, the things she bought, the trips she took, the apartment my parents renovated. I told her everything I'd been holding inside for years. Sarah took notes on a small tablet, her fingers moving quickly across the screen. When I finished, she looked up. Your sister has access to your parents' accounts. Yes, she's been managing their finances for the past 3 years. She convinced them she could help, that she'd learned about investing, that she wanted to take some of the burden off them, and they let her, they trust her. Sarah nodded slowly. That's where we start. She started following Lily, watching her spending habits, tracking her bank accounts, documenting her lifestyle. Within 2 weeks, Sarah came back with a report that made my stomach turn. We met at the same coffee shop. She slid a thick envelope across the table. You need to see this. I opened it. Inside were bank statements, credit card records, receipts, photos, page after page of evidence. Lily had been withdrawing money from my parents' joint account for years. Small amounts at first. $500 here, $1,000 there. Amounts small enough that my parents wouldn't notice, wouldn't question. But in the last 6 months, the withdrawals had increased. $10,000, $15,000, $25,000. My parents' savings account had gone from $200,000 to $47,000 in 3 years. I stared at the numbers, my hands shaking. $153,000. Gone. Sarah showed me receipts. Designer bags from stores I couldn't afford to walk into. Luxury vacations to places I'd only seen in magazines. A new car, a Tesla, that my parents didn't know about. All paid for with their money. Does she know they're struggling? I asked. Sarah shook her head. She doesn't care. Look at this. She showed me emails, text messages, conversations Lily had with her friends, pulled from her phone records, from social media, from everywhere. In one message, sent to a friend at 2 in the morning, Lily had written, "They'll never notice. Emma's too busy working to care, and they trust me completely." It's honestly kind of funny how easy it is. I read that message 5 times. Each time, the words cut deeper. She knew. She knew exactly what she was doing. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't ignorance. This was theft. Calculated, deliberate theft. Can we use this in court? I asked. All of it, Sarah said. Every email, every receipt, every transaction. This is financial elder abuse, Emma. Clear as day. I looked at the photos Sarah had taken of Lily, shopping on Rodeo Drive, drinking at expensive restaurants, laughing with friends, her arms full of bags that cost more than my monthly salary. She looked happy. She looked carefree. She had no idea what was coming. Keep going, I said. I want everything. Sarah smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who loved her job. You got it. I printed every email, every receipt, every transaction. I organized them into folders, labeled and dated. I kept copies in 3 separate locations: my apartment, a safe deposit box, and Richard's office. And I waited. 2 months later, my mother called. It was a Thursday afternoon. I was at work, reviewing financial reports, when my phone buzzed. Emma, we're having a family dinner this Saturday. Your father wants everyone there. I knew what it was. My 33rd birthday was in 3 days. They were going to forget again. Forget me. Remember her, like always. But this time, I didn't care. This time, I had a plan. I'll be there, I said. I dressed carefully that night. Simple black dress, nothing flashy, nothing that would draw attention. Minimal makeup, hair pulled back. I wanted to disappear into the background one more time. I wanted to see it happen, to witness it, to remember it. Fuel for what was coming. I arrived exactly on time, 6 o'clock. The house was decorated. Balloons in silver and white, flowers on every table, a cake on the dining room table, huge and elaborate. My heart lifted for half a second. Maybe this time, maybe this year, maybe they remember. Then I saw the banner stretched across the living room wall. Happy 29th birthday, Lily. I froze in the doorway. My mother rushed over, smiling, her hands covered in flour from baking. Oh, Emma, you're here. Perfect timing. We're celebrating Lily's birthday early this year. My birthday was in 3 days. March 14th. Lily's birthday was in 2 months. May 22nd. I looked around the room. My father was opening wine. My aunts were setting out plates. My uncles were laughing at something on TV. My cousins were chasing each other around the furniture, all of them smiling, all of them pretending this was normal. Lily walked over, holding a glass of wine, her hair perfect, her dress new. She looked at me and said, sweetly, like she meant it, "Thanks for coming, sis. I know you're busy." I smiled back. The smile I'd perfected over the years. The smile that said everything was fine. I wouldn't miss it. I sat down at the table.
I ate dinner, roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, my mother's famous rolls. Everything tasted like cardboard. I sang happy birthday when they brought out the cake. I clapped when Lily opened her gift. A new laptop, a designer purse, a weekend spa package. My parents had spent thousands. I kept smiling. The entire time I felt nothing. No sadness, no anger, just cold, patient clarity. I watched my family celebrate, watched them fawn over Lily, watched them forget me, one more time, and I memorized it. Every detail, every word, every laugh. This was the last time they'd do this to me. After dinner, after the cake, after the gifts, I stood up and walked over to my father. He was pouring himself another glass of wine, relaxed, happy. "Dad, can I talk to you privately?" He looked surprised. "Of course, honey. Everything okay? I just need a few minutes." He nodded. "Let's go to my office." We walked down the hallway. I closed the door behind us, and I ended the life they thought they had. We went into his office. I closed the door. My father sat down behind his desk, smiling, still riding the high of the party, of seeing his family together, of celebrating his favorite daughter. "What's on your mind, Emma?" I pulled out my folder, the one I'd been carrying in my bag for 2 months, waiting for the right moment. I placed it on his desk, right next to his glass of wine. "I need you to look at something." He opened it. His smile faded. Page by page, he read through the bank statements, the withdrawal records, the emails, the receipts, the photos of Lily spending their money on things they'd never seen, things she'd never mentioned. His hands started shaking. The color drained from his face. "Where did you get this?" His voice was quiet, strained. I didn't answer. I just watched him. I wanted to see the moment he understood, the moment he realized what his golden child had been doing. He flipped through more pages. His breathing got faster. He looked up at me, his eyes wide, panicked. "Emma, this isn't what it looks like," I said quietly. "Then what is it?" He stammered. He tried to explain. He said Lily had been helping him with finances, that she was investing the money, that she'd told him she'd found opportunities, better interest rates, smarter accounts, that she was trying to help them retire comfortably. His words came out fast, desperate, like he was trying to convince himself more than me. I let him talk. I let him make excuses. I let him defend her. Then I said, "Dad, she's been stealing from you for years." He shook his head, hard, like he could physically reject the truth. No, Lily wouldn't." I pulled out my phone. I'd been waiting to use this. The recording Sarah had gotten from one of Lily's friends, a girl she'd gone to college with, someone Sarah had tracked down and interviewed, someone who'd been willing to talk once she understood what was happening. I pressed play. Lily's voice filled the room, clear and laughing. "Recorded at a bar 3 weeks ago. They're so easy to manipulate. I just tell them it's for the business, for investments, for whatever, and they hand over whatever I want. My dad doesn't even check the accounts anymore. He just trusts me. And Emma, she's too busy being the responsible one to notice. Honestly, it's perfect." The recording ended. The silence in the room was deafening. My father stared at the phone in my hand, like it was a weapon. His face crumbled. All the color, all the life, all the certainty drained out of him. He looked at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw him see me, really see me, not as the independent one, not as the responsible one, but as the daughter who'd been trying to save him. "Emma," his voice broke, $153,000, Dad. That's how much she's taken. That's how much of your retirement is gone." He put his head in his hands. His shoulders shook. I didn't comfort him. I didn't move. I just stood there, holding my folder, holding the evidence of everything I'd lost, and everything they'd ignored. Finally he looked up. His eyes were red. "What do I do?" I said calmly, with the voice I'd been practicing in my head for weeks. "You let me handle it." He nodded. He didn't argue. He didn't defend her anymore. He just nodded, broken and small behind his desk. And I walked out of that office, knowing everything had changed. I didn't tell my mother. Not yet. My father agreed to cooperate. He gave me access to all his accounts, all his records, everything. He signed documents giving me power of attorney for financial decisions. He didn't fight me. He was too devastated, too ashamed, too overwhelmed. He trusted his daughter, and she'd betrayed him in the worst possible way. Richard filed a legal claim for financial elder abuse and fraud. We didn't tell Lily. We didn't tell anyone. We moved quietly, carefully, like surgeons preparing for an operation. Every step had to be perfect. Every piece of evidence had to be documented, verified, ironclad. Sarah continued surveillance. She followed Lily to boutiques, to restaurants, to her friends' apartments. She documented every purchase, every lie, every moment of excess. She pulled phone records, bank records, social media posts. She interviewed people Lily had bragged to, people who'd seen the money, who'd heard the stories. We built a case that would not only recover the stolen money, but also remove Lily from the will entirely. Richard prepared documents that would strip her of everything, not just the inheritance, but the trust, the legal protections, the family benefits. She'd be removed as a beneficiary on life insurance policies, pension plans, investment accounts. If she wanted a relationship with our parents after this, she'd have to build it without money, without leverage, without the safety net she'd abused. My father was devastated, but he didn't fight me. He knew the truth now. He'd seen the evidence. He'd heard her voice. He'd realized that the daughter he'd protected, spoiled and prioritized had been using him, and that realization broke something inside him. He stopped sleeping. He stopped eating. He'd sit in his office for hours, staring at the wall, replaying every conversation, every decision, every moment he'd chosen her over me. One night, he called me. It was late, after midnight. "Emma, I'm sorry. I didn't say anything. I just listened. I'm sorry for every birthday we forgot. I'm sorry for every time we chose her over you. I'm sorry for making you feel invisible. You didn't deserve that. You never deserved that." I closed my eyes. "I know. Do you forgive me?" I thought about that question for a long time. "I don't know yet, Dad, but I'm trying." My mother was harder. She refused to believe it at first. When I showed her the bank statements, she said there had to be a mistake. When I showed her the receipts, she said Lily must have had permission. When I showed her the emails, she said they were taken out of context. But when I played her the recording, when she heard Lily's voice laughing about how easy it was to manipulate them, she broke. She cried for hours. She locked herself in her bedroom and sobbed into her pillow like a child. Not for me, not for what they'd done to me, but for the daughter she thought she knew, for the perfect image she'd built in her head, for the golden child who'd turned out to be a thief. I didn't comfort her. I just waited. I sat on the couch downstairs, drinking tea, listening to her cry through the ceiling, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no sympathy, just exhaustion. Finally she came downstairs. Her eyes were swollen. Her face was blotchy. She sat down next to me and said, in a voice barely above a whisper, "What happens now?" I said, "We take back what's ours." The court date was set for 3 weeks. Lily had no idea.
Lily started to notice something was wrong. My parents stopped answering her calls as quickly. When she called my father, he'd let it go to voicemail. When she texted my mother, the replies were short, distant. My father made excuses when she asked for money. "We're a little tight this month. Can you wait until next week? I need to check with the accountant." She came to the house one afternoon, unannounced. I was there. I'd been spending more time with my parents, helping them process everything, preparing them for what was coming. I was sitting in the living room when I heard her car pull into the driveway. She walked in without knocking. She never knocked. She walked into the living room, saw me sitting with my parents, and her smile faltered. "What's going on?" My mother didn't answer. My father looked at the floor. The silence stretched out, heavy and uncomfortable. I stood up. "We need to talk, Lily." She laughed, nervous, defensive, the laugh of someone who knows something's wrong but doesn't want to admit it. "About what?" I handed her a folder, the same folder I'd given my father. She opened it slowly. I watched her face change as she read. Confusion first, then recognition, then fear. The color drained from her cheeks. Her hands started shaking. "Where did you get this?" Her voice was sharp, panicked. I said calmly, "Does it matter?" She looked at my parents, desperate now, searching for support. "Mom, Dad, this is insane. Emma's lying. She's always been jealous of me. You know that. She's making this up," my mother said quietly, without looking at her. "We heard the recording, Lily." Lily's mouth opened, closed. She looked at me, and for the first time I saw real fear in her eyes. Not guilt, not remorse. Fear. Fear of losing what she'd taken. Fear of facing consequences. "You're trying to destroy me." I shook my head. "No, I'm just showing them who you really are." She threw the folder at me. Papers scattered across the floor. She was shaking now, her whole body trembling with rage and panic. "You're a jealous, bitter, careful," I said softly. "Everything you say right now can be used in court." Her eyes went wide. "Court? We're suing you for financial elder abuse and fraud. The hearing is in 2 weeks. You'll be served with papers tomorrow." She backed toward the door, her breath coming in short gasps. "You can't do this. You can't. I already did." She looked at my parents one more time. My father wouldn't meet her eyes. My mother was crying silently. Lily's face twisted, and for a moment I thought she might apologize, but she didn't. She just turned and ran out of the house. 2 days later, she hired a lawyer. A week after that, she stopped posting on social media. The walls were closing in. The courtroom was small, cold, and silent. Oak-paneled walls, fluorescent lights, rows of empty benches. It felt like a place where truth was supposed to matter. I hoped that was true. My parents sat behind me in the gallery. My father looked like he'd aged 10 years in 3 weeks. My mother kept her eyes down, hands folded in her lap. They'd stopped defending Lily. They'd stopped making excuses. Now they just looked broken. Lily sat across the aisle with her lawyer, a man in an expensive suit named Marcus Hoffman. He looked bored, like this was just another case, just another payday. Lily was wearing a conservative dress, hair pulled back, minimal makeup. She'd been coached to look sympathetic, innocent. It almost worked. Richard stood beside me, calm and prepared. He had 3 folders on the table in front of him, each one filled with evidence. He looked at me once, and nodded. We were ready. The judge entered. We rose. He was older, gray-haired, with the kind of face that had seen every lie, every manipulation, every scheme. He sat down and told us to do the same. "We're here for the matter of Charles and Diane Charlie versus Lily Charlie. This is a civil case involving claims of financial elder abuse and fraud." He looked at Richard. "Counselor, you may begin." Richard stood. He didn't rush. He laid out the case methodically, piece by piece, building a wall of evidence so high that by the end there'd be no way to climb over it. He presented the bank statements first. Withdrawals dating back 3 years, small at first, then increasing. He showed the judge the pattern, the escalation, the total amount taken, $153,000. He presented the withdrawal records, each one documented with dates, amounts, and locations. Most of them made when my parents weren't present, when Lily was alone with their accounts. He presented the emails, messages where she joked about managing the family money, messages where she called our parents easy to manipulate, messages where she bragged to friends about the things she bought with their money. He presented the receipts, designer bags worth thousands, luxury vacations to Paris, Milan, Tokyo, a Tesla she bought without telling anyone, every purchase documented, every dollar traced back to my parents' accounts. He presented the recordings, Lily's voice, clear and laughing, admitting she'd been manipulating them, admitting she knew exactly what she was doing. The courtroom was silent as her words filled the room. Even her lawyer winced. The judge listened without expression. He made notes. He asked questions. Richard answered every one with precision. Then it was Marcus Hoffman's turn. He stood up, adjusted his tie, and tried to argue that Lily had permission, that my parents had willingly given her the money, that she'd been helping them, managing their finances, trying to invest for their future. Richard countered with the recordings, with the emails where she called them easy to manipulate, with the receipts showing luxury purchases, while my parents' savings drained. Marcus tried to claim misunderstanding, poor communication, youthful mistakes, but every argument fell flat. The judge asked Lily to speak. She stood up, tears streaming down her face. She'd been crying quietly through the entire hearing, and now she turned it up. She said she'd only been trying to help, that she'd made mistakes, that she loved our parents, that she never meant to hurt anyone. The judge asked, "Did you inform your parents of every withdrawal?" She hesitated. Her lawyer leaned in and whispered something. She looked at the judge and said, quietly, "Not all of them." "Did you use their money for personal expenses?" She looked at her lawyer. He nodded. She whispered, "Yes." "Did you purchase luxury items with funds taken from your parents' accounts without their knowledge?" Her voice was barely audible. "Yes." The judge leaned back in his chair. He looked at the evidence spread across his desk. He looked at Lily. He looked at my parents. Then he looked at me. "I've seen enough." He ruled in our favor. Full restitution of $153,000, removal from the will, and all beneficiary designations, a restraining order preventing her from accessing my parents' financial accounts, and a formal judgment of financial elder abuse that would follow her for the rest of her life. Lily collapsed in her chair. Her lawyer put a hand on her shoulder. My parents sat in silence, and I felt nothing. No victory, no satisfaction, just exhaustion. It was over. Lily was ordered to repay $153,000. She didn't have it. She'd spent it. Every penny, on things she couldn't return, experiences she couldn't undo, a lifestyle she could no longer afford. Her accounts were frozen. Her assets were seized. The luxury car, the Tesla she'd bought in secret, was repossessed. The designer bags, the jewelry, the expensive electronics, all of it sold at auction to repay my parents. She moved out of her renovated apartment and into a tiny studio across town. She stopped posting on social media. She disappeared from family events. She became a ghost. My parents were devastated, but they didn't fight the ruling. They didn't try to protect her. They just sat in their house, surrounded by photos of a daughter they didn't recognize anymore, and processed what had happened. My mother cried every night for a week. I could hear her through the phone when we talked. She blamed herself. She said she should have seen it. She should have known. She kept asking how she could have been so blind. I didn't have an answer for her. Sometimes love makes you blind. Sometimes you see what you want to see. My father barely spoke. He'd go to work, come home, sit in his office, and stare at nothing. He stopped watching TV. He stopped reading the paper. He just existed, trying to reconcile the daughter he loved with the thief who'd stolen from him. But slowly things changed. They started asking about my life, my job, my dreams. They started calling me, not just when they needed something, but just to talk. They started remembering my birthday. They started seeing me, not as the responsible one, not as the independent one, but as their daughter, the one who had saved them, the one who had fought for them, when no one else would. I didn't gloat. I didn't rub it in. I didn't remind them of all the years they'd ignored me. I just existed, finally, as someone who mattered. And that was enough. Richard called me one afternoon, 2 months after the ruling. "It's over, Emma. The money's been recovered. Your parents' accounts are restored. The restraining order is in place. You won." I hung up and stared at my reflection in the window. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired, hollow, but I also felt free. Free from the weight of being invisible. Free from the anger I'd carried for 33 years. Free from the family that had broken me. I could start over now. I could build something new. 2 weeks later, an envelope arrived in my mailbox. Plain, white, no return address. I almost threw it away, but something made me open it. The envelope was plain, no return address. I almost threw it away. It arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, mixed in with credit card offers and grocery store flyers. I was standing at my mailbox in the lobby of my apartment building, sorting through junk mail, when I saw it. Plain, white, envelope. My name and address handwritten in ink. No stamp, which meant someone had delivered it by hand. My stomach tightened. I knew, somehow, before I even opened it, who it was from. But something made me open it. Maybe curiosity. Maybe the faint, desperate hope that there was still something worth salvaging in the wreckage of our family. Maybe I needed closure. Or maybe I was just tired of running from ghosts. I rode the elevator up to my apartment, the envelope clutched in my hand, my heart beating faster than it should. I unlocked my door, dropped my bag on the floor, and stood in my kitchen staring at that envelope like it might explode. Inside was a single page, handwritten in Lily's looping familiar handwriting. I recognized it immediately. The same handwriting that used to write me birthday cards when we were kids, back when we were still close, back when she'd draw little hearts in the corners and sign her name with a smiley face. The same handwriting that signed Christmas presents with love, your favorite sister, even though she was my only sister. The same handwriting that had once meant something, that had once been part of my life in a way that felt normal, safe, familial. Now seeing it made my chest tighten. It felt like seeing a ghost, a reminder of something that used to exist, but didn't anymore. A relationship that had died slowly, painfully, over years of neglect and betrayal, until there was nothing left but scar tissue. I sat down at my kitchen table and read, "Emma, I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to. I just want you to know that I'm sorry, not because I got caught, but because I finally understand what I did. I took everything from you, your childhood, your parents' love, your place in this family, and I told myself it was okay because you were strong, because you didn't need them the way I did. But that was a lie. I needed to feel special. I needed to be the favorite, and I destroyed you to get it. I don't know if I'll ever be able to repay what I stole. Not just the money, but the years, the memories, the love you deserved. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see you now, and I'm sorry." I read it 3 times. Each time, I felt something different. The first time, anger,
Hot, immediate anger that flooded through me like fire. How dare she send me a letter after everything she'd done, after stealing from our parents, after manipulating them for years, after getting everything while I got nothing. How dare she think a handwritten apology could fix any of it? My hands shook as I held the paper. I wanted to rip it up. I wanted to throw it away. I wanted to pretend I'd never received it. The second time, sadness, deep, aching sadness, that settled in my chest like a stone. I thought about the sister I used to have, the little girl who'd follow me around when we were kids, who'd ask me to play dolls with her, who'd crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. I thought about the moment things changed, the moment she became the favorite, and I became invisible. I thought about all the years we could have had as sisters, as friends, as allies, and I mourned them. I mourned the relationship we'd never have. I mourned the sister I'd lost, even though part of me wondered if she'd ever really existed at all. The third time, nothing, just emptiness, just the quiet realization that some apologies come too late. By the third reading, the words felt hollow. They were just words on paper. They couldn't undo anything. They couldn't give me back my childhood. They couldn't erase the forgotten birthdays, the neglected moments, the years of feeling like I didn't matter. They couldn't repair the damage she'd done to our parents, the money she'd stolen, the trust she'd destroyed. They were just words, and words without action are meaningless. I sat there for a long time, holding that letter, staring at her handwriting. I noticed things I hadn't seen on the first read. The way her letters slanted slightly to the right, like she was leaning forward, urgent. The way she'd crossed out words here and there. I think I became
I wish I could.
I don't know if I'll ever. She'd struggled with this letter. She'd revised it. She'd tried to get the words right. And maybe that meant something. Maybe it meant she really was sorry. But sorry doesn't fix broken trust. Sorry doesn't undo years of damage. Sorry is just the beginning. And even then, it's only the beginning if it's followed by action, by change, by proof that things are different. And I had no evidence that Lily had changed. I had a letter. That was it. A piece of paper delivered in secret, without a phone call, without a face-to-face conversation, without the courage to actually look me in the eye and say the words out loud. I thought about my therapist, Dr. Morgan, and what she'd told me about forgiveness. Forgiveness is for you, not for them, she'd said. It's about releasing the hold that anger has on your heart. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. You can forgive someone, and still choose not to have them in your life. You can forgive someone, and still protect yourself. Did I forgive Lily? I didn't know. Maybe I did, in some small way. Maybe I'd already started the process of letting go, of releasing the anger, of accepting that she was broken in ways I couldn't fix. But forgiveness didn't mean I needed to respond. It didn't mean I needed to open the door and let her back in. It didn't mean I owed her anything. I folded the letter carefully, and put it in a drawer, not the trash. I wasn't ready to throw it away, but not somewhere I'd see it every day, either. I put it in the bottom drawer of my desk, under some old files and forgotten papers, a place where it could exist without haunting me, a place where I could find it again if I ever needed to, but where it wouldn't demand my attention. I didn't respond. I didn't call her. I didn't send a message, because what was there to say? Sorry doesn't undo 33 years of neglect. Sorry doesn't give me back the birthdays, the celebrations, the moments that should have been mine. Sorry doesn't change the fact that she made a choice, over and over again, to hurt me. Some apologies don't deserve answers. They just need to be heard. And that's all I gave her. I heard her, and then I let her go. 6 months passed. My parents sold the house, and moved into something smaller, more manageable. The big family home, the one I'd grown up in, the one that held 33 years of memories, both good and terrible, went on the market in early summer. It sold in 2 weeks. A young family bought it, a couple with 3 kids who stood in the backyard imagining swing sets and birthday parties. My mother cried the day they signed the papers, not because she was sad to leave, but because she was letting go of the life she thought she'd built. The perfect family, the golden daughter, the illusions. They moved into a 2-bedroom condo downtown, closer to their doctors, closer to the life they needed now. The condo was modern, clean, with big windows and hardwood floors. It was a fresh start, and they needed that. They downsized everything. Furniture that didn't fit was donated. Photo albums were sorted through, and I noticed that some pictures of Lily quietly disappeared. Not all of them, but the ones from the elaborate birthday parties, the ones where she was opening expensive gifts while I stood blurred in the background. Those went into a box in the closet. They used the recovered money to secure their retirement, to rebuild what Lily had taken. $153,000 had been returned through the court order, through the sale of her seized assets, through payment plans her lawyer had negotiated. My parents put it into secure accounts, conservative investments, things that couldn't be touched or manipulated. They hired a new financial advisor, someone Richard recommended. They started being careful, vigilant. They'd learned the hard way that trust has limits. They started therapy, so did I. My parents went together, to a couples therapist, who specialized in family trauma and rebuilding trust. They went every Thursday at 4 o'clock. My mother told me it was hard, sitting in that office, talking about their failures as parents. My father said the therapist didn't let them make excuses, didn't let them hide behind the word mistakes. They had to face what they'd done, the years of neglect, the favoritism, the damage. I went to therapy on Tuesdays at 6. My therapist's name was Dr. Patricia Morgan, a woman in her 60s, with kind eyes and a way of asking questions that cut straight to the truth. She didn't let me hide either. She made me talk about the pain I'd buried, the anger I'd swallowed, the years I'd spent convincing myself I didn't need love because love wasn't offered. I didn't forgive them immediately. Forgiveness isn't a switch you flip. It's not a decision you make once and move on. It's a process, slow, painful, uncertain. Dr. Morgan told me that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending everything's fine. It means releasing the grip that anger has on your heart so you can breathe again. Some days I woke up and felt okay. I'd have coffee, go to work, talk to my parents on the phone, and feel like maybe we were going to make it through this. Some days I woke up and felt the old anger burning in my chest like acid. I'd remember a forgotten birthday, a party for Lily, while I stood invisible, and I'd want to scream. I'd want to call them and list every hurt, every wound, every moment they'd chosen her over me. But I didn't. I called Dr. Morgan instead. I wrote in my journal. I let myself feel it without letting it consume me. But we started talking, really talking, about the past, about the favoritism, about the pain. We had dinners where we didn't avoid the hard topics. We sat across from each other and spoke truths that hurt. My mother cried a lot. My father stared at his hands and struggled to find words. I stayed calm, steady, because I'd already done my crying. I'd already screamed into pillows and punched the air and broken down in Dr. Morgan's office. Now I just needed them to hear me. My mother admitted she'd been easier on Lily because she reminded her of herself, fragile, needy, dependent. She said she'd grown up feeling weak, feeling like she needed to be taken care of. And when she saw those same traits in Lily, she wanted to protect her. She wanted to give her what she'd needed as a child. But in doing that, she said, she'd ignored me. She said she saw me as strong, capable, someone who didn't need protection, someone who'd be fine, no matter what. I was wrong, she said, her voice shaking. I should have seen that you needed me too. That you were strong, because you had to be, not because you wanted to be. I should have seen you, Emma. I should have loved you the way you deserved. She reached across the table and took my hand. I didn't pull away. I let her hold it, let her cry, let her feel the weight of what she'd done. And I said quietly, I needed you, Mom. I needed you so much. I know, she whispered. I know. My father admitted he'd ignored me because I never asked for help. He said he thought I was fine, that I had everything under control. He said when I got straight A's and scholarships, when I worked 2 jobs and bought my own car, when I solved my own problems and never complained, he thought that meant I didn't need him. He said he took my strength for granted. He said he'd been lazy, cowardly. He said he chose the easy path, giving attention to the daughter who demanded it, while ignoring the daughter who quietly handled everything alone. I'm sorry, Emma, he said. He said it over and over, like repetition could erase the years, like saying it enough times would make the pain go away. I'm so sorry. I looked at him, this man who'd been a distant figure my whole life, and I said, I don't know if sorry is enough, Dad, but it's a start. They didn't have excuses, just explanations, and slowly I started to let go. Not of the hurt. The hurt was still there, probably always would be, like scar tissue that aches when it rains, but I let go of the anger. I realized that holding on to it was only hurting me. It was a weight I carried everywhere, and it was exhausting. They couldn't change the past, neither could I. All we could do was try to build something better, something honest, something real. Dr. Morgan asked me once, do you think you can have a relationship with them? I thought about it for a long time. I don't know, but I think I want to try. Why? because they're trying to, and because I don't want to spend the rest of my life defined by what they did wrong. I want to be defined by what I do right. I started focusing on my own life. I got a promotion at work, senior financial analyst at a firm downtown. It came with a raise, a corner office, and respect. My boss called me into her office on a Friday afternoon and told me I'd earned it, that my work was exceptional, that the company valued me. I walked out of that meeting and called my parents. I told them. They screamed with joy on the phone. They asked if they could take me to dinner to celebrate. I said yes. I moved into a new apartment, a one-bedroom with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city. It was on the 8th floor of a renovated building with exposed brick and modern fixtures. I painted the walls the colors I wanted, soft gray in the living room, pale blue in the bedroom. I bought furniture I loved, pieces I picked out myself without asking anyone's opinion. A velvet couch in emerald green, a coffee table made from reclaimed wood, bookshelves I filled with novels and travel guides and cookbooks. I made it mine. Every morning I'd wake up to sunlight flooding through those windows, and I'd lie in bed for a few minutes just feeling grateful. Grateful for the job, for the apartment, for the life I was building, for the fact that I'd survived and come out stronger. I started dating someone who saw me, really saw me. His name was Daniel. We met at a coffee shop near my office. I was reading a book, he was working on his laptop, and when I got up to leave, I accidentally knocked over his water. We both scrambled to clean it up, laughing, apologizing, and he asked if he could buy me another coffee to make up for the chaos. I said yes. Daniel was kind, patient, genuine. He was a civil engineer, building bridges and roads, fixing infrastructure. He had strong hands and a quiet laugh. He asked questions and listened to the answers. He wanted to know about my childhood, my work, my dreams. He didn't interrupt. He didn't try to fix things. He just listened. He remembered the little things. My favorite coffee order, the name of my coworker who annoyed me, the fact that I hated olives but loved mushrooms. He'd text me good morning. He'd send me articles he thought I'd find interesting. He'd show up at my apartment with takeout when I'd had a long day. He celebrated my wins. When I got promoted, he took me out and toasted to my success. When I closed on my first house a year later, he brought champagne and helped me move. He didn't make me feel like I had to earn his attention. He gave it freely, generously, consistently. I felt whole with him, not complete, because I was already complete, but seen, valued, loved, not because of what I could do for him, but because of who I was. I celebrated my 34th birthday with friends, not family. We went to dinner at an Italian restaurant downtown. 8 of us crowded around a table, laughing, drinking wine, telling stories. They sang happy birthday. The waiter brought out a chocolate cake with a candle. They gave me gifts, books, a scarf, a plant for my apartment. They made me feel loved, and for the first time in my life, I felt whole. I didn't tell my parents I wasn't spending my birthday with them. They didn't ask. They were learning boundaries, learning that I had a life outside of them, learning that I got to choose. Then 1 year later, my mother called. "Emma, it's your birthday next week. We'd like to celebrate just us, you, me, and your father." I hesitated. Old wounds don't heal overnight. Old patterns don't disappear because you want them to. I thought about all the years they'd forgotten me, all the parties they'd thrown for Lily while I stood in the corner, all the pain. But I also thought about the therapy sessions, the conversations, the apologies, the effort they'd been making. They called me every week now. They asked about my life. They showed up, not perfectly, but they tried. "Okay," I said, "I'll come." I arrived at their new condo on March 14th, my actual birthday. I brought wine and flowers. I didn't know what to expect. When I knocked on the door, my father answered. He smiled, a real smile, not the distant, distracted smile I'd grown up with, a smile that reached his eyes. "Happy birthday, Emma." The decorations were simple, a small cake on the table, a few balloons, no crowd, no cameras, no spectacle, just my parents, waiting for me. My mother hugged me at the door, held me tight, whispered happy birthday in my ear. It felt genuine, it felt real. We sat down at the table, and for the first time in 34 years, they sang happy birthday to me, just me, not as an afterthought, not as an obligation, but because they wanted to, because they loved me, because they finally saw me. I blew out the candles.
I looked at my parents, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Regret, love, respect. They weren't perfect. They'd hurt me, but they were trying. and that was more than I'd had before. "Thank you," I said. We ate cake, we talked, we laughed, we shared stories about work, about life, about small things that didn't matter, and big things that did. And when I left that night, I realized something. I didn't need revenge anymore. I didn't need them to suffer. I just needed them to see me, and finally, they did. I drove home that night, the necklace around my neck, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged. A year later, I stood in my new office, looking out at the city. The view was different from up here. 12th floor, corner office with windows on two sides. I could see the entire downtown skyline, the river cutting through the buildings like a silver ribbon, the morning light painting everything gold. I'd been promoted to senior analyst 6 months ago, and every morning when I walked through that door with my name on it, Emma Charlie, senior financial analyst, I felt something I'd never felt before. Pride. Not the kind of pride that comes from proving someone wrong, but the quiet, steady pride that comes from proving yourself right. I'd bought my first house 3 months after the promotion. A small 2-bedroom craftsman with a garden and a porch where I could sit in the mornings and drink coffee. It had blue shutters and a white picket fence. And yes, I know how cliché that sounds, but I didn't care. It was mine. Every mortgage payment, every piece of furniture, every plant in that garden, I'd chosen it. I'd earned it. Nobody had given it to me. Nobody had helped because they felt obligated. I'd built a life that was mine, a life I was proud of, a life I'd earned. The house had become my sanctuary. I'd painted the kitchen a soft yellow that reminded me of sunrise. I'd hung pictures on the walls, photos of my friends, of Daniel and me on vacation, of places I'd traveled to on my own. Not a single photo included Lily. My bedroom faced east, and every morning the sun would stream through the white curtains and wake me gently. I had a garden where I grew tomatoes and herbs, and on weekends I'd spend hours out there, my hands in the dirt, building something beautiful from nothing. Daniel had helped me pick out furniture for the living room. He had good taste, better than mine, and he never made me feel bad about not knowing the difference between mid-century modern and contemporary. We'd spent a Saturday driving to estate sales and vintage shops, laughing, holding hands, debating whether a lamp was charming or just ugly. We bought the lamp. It was a little of both, and I loved it. My parents and I had dinner once a month. We weren't perfect. Some months were easier than others. Some conversations still hurt, like when my mother mentioned a memory that included Lily, or when my father absent-mindedly said something about both our daughters and then caught himself, his face crumbling with regret. Those moments were knives, quick and sharp, but we were healing, slowly, carefully, with honesty and effort. They asked about my work now. Real questions, not the polite surface-level kind. They wanted to know about the projects I was leading, the presentations I was giving, the recognition I was receiving. My mother had started keeping a folder of articles I'd been quoted in, professional publications where my expertise mattered. My father had come to my office once, unannounced, just to see where I worked. He'd stood in the doorway looking proud and sad at the same time, and he'd said, "You did this all on your own. I wish I'd been there to see it happen." I'd hugged him. It was enough. They asked about Daniel. They'd met him 4 times now, and each time went better than the last. My mother liked how he looked at me, like I was the only person in the room. My father liked how he talked about his work. He was a civil engineer with passion and humility. They asked when we might get engaged. I told them we were taking our time, building something solid, and they nodded. They didn't push. That was new. They celebrated my wins. When I got promoted, they took me to dinner at the nicest restaurant in town. When I closed my first house, my mother cried and my father handed me a card with a check inside. Not a huge amount, but enough to buy a lawnmower and some patio furniture. The card said, "For your first home, we're so proud of you. Love, Mom and Dad." I'd kept that card in my desk drawer at work, and sometimes when I had a hard day, I'd pull it out and read it. They showed up when I needed them. When my car broke down, my father drove an hour to help me. When I got the flu and couldn't leave my house for a week, my mother brought me soup and medicine and sat with me while I slept. These were small things, ordinary things, the kind of things parents are supposed to do. But for me, they were everything. And I let them. I let them show up. I let them try. I let them love me the way they should have loved me all along. Lily reached out once, asking if we could talk. It was 4 months after the trial, after everything had settled and the dust had cleared. She sent a message through my mother, which felt cowardly but also smart. She knew I'd blocked her number. The message said she wanted to apologize in person. She said she wanted to rebuild. She said she'd been in therapy. She said she understood what she'd done. She said she wanted a chance to make things right. I thought about it for a long time. Days, weeks. I talked to my therapist about it. I talked to Daniel. I even talked to Sarah, the private investigator, who told me bluntly, people don't change that fast. She wants something. I thought about the letter she'd sent, the handwritten apology. I thought about the years of neglect, the stolen money, the casual cruelty. I thought about the girl she used to be, my little sister, before everything got twisted and broken. Then I declined, not out of cruelty, but out of self-preservation. I sent a message back through my mother. I appreciate that she's working on herself, but I'm not ready, and I don't know if I ever will be. Please respect my decision. My mother called me, crying, asking if I was sure. She said Lily was struggling. She said Lily was alone. She said Lily needed family. I said gently but firmly, she made choices. I'm making mine. Some bridges are meant to stay burned. Some relationships are too broken to fix. And that's okay. I didn't owe her forgiveness. I didn't owe her reconciliation. I didn't owe her anything. I'd spent too many years giving pieces of myself to people who didn't value them. I'd spent too many years shrinking to make others comfortable. I was done with that. I'd built boundaries now, strong ones, and I wasn't going to tear them down just because someone asked nicely. Forgiveness isn't something you owe. It's something you give when you're ready, if you're ever ready. And I wasn't. I didn't hate her anymore. I just didn't need her in my life. Hate takes energy, and I'd spent enough energy on Lily. The anger had faded, replaced by something quieter. Indifference, maybe, or acceptance. She was a person who'd hurt me deeply, and I'd dealt with it, and now I was moving forward without her. That was my choice, my boundary, my peace. I'd spent 33 years fighting for scraps of love and attention. I'd spent 33 years being invisible, fighting to be seen, fighting to matter, fighting to prove I was worth something. And I'd learned something important, something that changed everything. You can't force people to value you, but you can choose to value yourself. That realization had been the key. Not the lawsuit, not the money, not even the apologies from my parents. The key was understanding that my worth didn't depend on their recognition. I was valuable because I existed, because I worked hard, because I was kind, because I showed up, because I tried. My value was inherent, not earned. And once I understood that, everything else fell into place. I looked at my reflection in the office window and smiled. The woman staring back at me was strong, capable, whole. She wasn't the forgotten daughter anymore. She wasn't the backup plan. She wasn't the one standing in the corner at parties, holding an empty glass, waiting to be noticed. She was Emma Charlie. And she was enough. She was more than enough. She was more than enough. I thought about everything that had happened. The birthdays nobody remembered. The parties for Lily while I stood invisible. The will that listed me as a backup. The betrayals, small and large, that had accumulated like stones in my pockets, weighing me down for years. The courtroom, where truth had finally mattered. The letter from Lily, too little too late. The slow painful process of healing with my parents. The therapy sessions where I'd cried and raged and processed. The nights I'd spent alone, rebuilding myself piece by piece. And I realized something. The best revenge isn't destruction. It isn't making someone suffer. It isn't watching them fall and feeling satisfaction. It isn't even justice, though justice had been necessary. The best revenge is building a life so full, so rich, so genuinely yours, that the people who hurt you become irrelevant. It's choosing yourself when no one else did. It's walking away from people who made you feel small, and building a world where you feel whole. It's waking up in a house you bought, going to a job you earned, loving a man who sees you, and realizing that you don't need anyone's permission to be happy. It's freedom. Complete, honest freedom. I pulled out my phone and opened the family group chat. My parents had added me back after the trial. Lily's name was gone. I typed a message. Dinner at my place next month. I'll cook. My mother replied immediately. We'd love that. My father sent a heart emoji. I smiled and put my phone away. I had work to do. I had a presentation in an hour, a meeting with executives in the afternoon, a dinner date with Daniel tonight. I had a life to live. I had dreams to chase. I had a garden to tend, and a house to fill with memories and a future to build. And for the first time in 34 years, I had a family that saw me. Not perfectly, not without scars, but they saw me. They tried. They showed up. And I let them be part of the life I'd built, but they weren't the foundation anymore. I was the foundation. I'd built myself strong enough to stand alone, and that made standing together possible. If this story touched you, if you've ever fought to be seen in your own family, drop a like and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Your story matters. You matter. And sometimes, the best revenge is simply becoming the person you were always meant to be. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was here. I was whole. I was enough. And that was everything.